So today is March 3rd, 2025. The other day, we are talking about the importance to have sattva, faith, and confidence to practice. Knowing the benefits of the practice when the sattva, faith, and confidence arose, then we will have a desire to do the practice to get those benefits. So, first of all, we should have faith and confidence, especially in the method, in the Satipatthana practice, and then we should have a desire to do the practice. And then only we will come to the meditation center to do the actual practice. So before we come to the center, the two things, sattva, faith and confidence, and desire, chanda, these two things should be there. So when we come to the center, and after listening the method of practice, how to do the actual practice, after listening the method, the instructions, then we start to do the actual practice. And a person who is doing the actual practice, following all the instructions given, is called yogi. So yogi is a person who is trying to follow all the instructions given to him or her. So Pali word yogi, it is compound of two words, yoga and e. Yeah? It is compound of two words, yoga and e. So yoga, it has different meanings. We are hearing about this yoga in our daily life a lot. Yeah? But here in the practice, in Satipatthana practice, yoga actually means effort. It is Viriya, effort or energy. It is not the physical exercise, but this is the mental effort. Yoga Viriya is the mental effort, mental energy. And the E means owner, possessor. So yogi means the owner of effort, a possessor of effort. So one who is striving hard in the practice, then that person is a real yogi. Yeah, not just uh, yogi by name, but a real yogi, one who is putting a lot of effort in the practice. So we all are here in this retreat to become a real yogi so that we gain some benefits from this practice. Yoga, which is effort, the Pali, another Pali word for this yoga effort is Viriya. Yeah? Viriya. Viriya is the state of energetic person, the state of courageous person. A person is called very energetic, very courageous because he has effort. He has a courageous effort, the mental effort. That is why a person is called very courageous person, very energetic person, a heroic person. A heroic person or the courageous person has the courage to give up the worldly happiness in order to gain the Dhamma happiness. Yeah? We all are here leaving behind our worldly happiness. Coming to the center, coming to the meditation center to do the practice actually is not very easy. It's very difficult. Very, very difficult. At the home, we can live very freely. We don't need to care about anything. We don't need to care about the schedule. We don't need to care about the food. We can eat anytime, whenever we want. We can get up anytime, whenever we want. We can do whatever we want when we are at the home. We can sit in the chair, lie down in the bed, watching TV, etc. So whatever we want, we can do when we are at the home. But at the meditation center, we are not allowed to do that way. We have to follow the schedule very strictly. Actually, the schedule is for the benefit of the yogis. So we have to follow the schedule very strictly. We have to get up early in the morning. We have only 5 to 6 hours for sleeping. And we have only 2 meals a day. And from early morning till night, we are doing sitting meditation, then walking meditation, and in daily activities also we have to be very mindful. We cannot move in quick manner as we do at the home. We we have to be very mindful, moving slowly. So everything is very limited when we are at the center. We are at the meditation center. We are at the retreat. And that is not very easy to follow that way. And especially in daily activities, when we are asked to move slowly and mindfully, it is not very easy, because at home we have a habit of moving quickly. So sitting meditation we can do. We can sit for 1 hour. And walking meditation also we can do walking meditation, because it is the time to do the walking meditation. But in daily activities, it is very difficult to control ourselves. We just want to go fast. If we don't have a patience, then we cannot move slowly. The physical activities we cannot do slowly if we are not patient. So actually, coming to the retreat itself is very difficult. And we know that it's going to be difficult when we are at the meditation center, but we still come to the center. That means we already have some kind of courage, to face the difficulties that we are going to have. So somehow we are already yogi. We are already yogi. We have that courageous effort already. And after coming from the center, we are trying our best to follow the schedule, to follow the instructions. So we are quite brave. Yeah? That is why we are already yogi. We have a courage to give up the worldly happiness that we would get when we are at the home, to gain the happiness of the Dhamma, the genuine happiness of the Dhamma. So when we are at the center, after listening to the instructions and now practicing according to the instructions, we try our best to observe every arising objects, starting from the main object, rising and falling movement of the abdomen. We are trying to focus, trying to pay attention in the abdomen to know the movement there, the rising movement and the falling movement. So to be able to observe, to be able to note that rising and falling movement in the abdomen, we need effort. We need effort. Without the application of effort, we cannot feel or we cannot see the movement in the abdomen. We have to pay attention in the abdomen. We have to push our mind, noting mind, to the abdomen so that we can see the movement, rising and falling movement there very clearly. So every time we need effort. Every moment we need effort to see the objects. And not only the main object, the rising and falling movement in the abdomen, the most difficult part of the practice is to control our mind. The mind has a tendency to go here and there, to wander everywhere. If there is no effort, then we will not realize, we will not notice this wandering mind. We will not notice that wandering mind, that the mind thinking this and that, fantasizing, imagining. We will not realize, we will not notice, because the effort is not there, or the effort is not enough. So to be able to know the state of mind, the effort is needed. There should be an effort so that we can see the nature of mind clearly, whether the mind is wandering somewhere or whether the mind is focusing on the primary object, rising and falling movement in the abdomen. So when we cannot see the movement in the abdomen clearly, and when we cannot know the state of mind, what the mind is doing, and when time passes on, we become very lazy, because everything is very blurred, not clear. The rising and falling movement also not clear. The mind also not clear. We don't know what's happening in the mind. If we come to know only later, we come to notice the mind. And when this type of things happen again and again, we feel not interested in the practice. We become lazy, don't want to continue practice. We feel very bored. So those things happens because the courageous effort is not applied in the practice. If we apply the courageous effort, we can note the rising and falling movement, and also we can see the state of mind very clearly. It is not like that the mind will always stay with the primary object. It is not like that. The mind will all the time stick with the primary object, rising and falling movement. Because the mind has a tendency to go very far. Durangamang, the Buddha said, Durangamang, mind has a tendency to go very far. It travels alone. Mind does not need any companion to travel. It travels alone. It can go anywhere. So definitely the mind will go here and there. The mind wanders. But when we have effort, Viriya or yoga, we can notice that wandering mind very quickly. We can notice that wandering mind very quickly, and we can note or observe that wandering mind. So the effort is very crucial in Satipatthana practice, that practice which leads us to the genuine happiness. The effort is very crucial. So a person who has that effort is called yogi, and we all are here to become a real yogi. And this Viriya or yoga can be of 3 levels. The 3 levels of Viriya. The first one is Arambha Dhatu in Pali. It is the initial effort. And the second one is Nikkama Dhatu, that is boosted effort. And third one is Parakama Dhatu, that is culminating effort. And that effort, with that effort, we will reach to our destination. We will reach to our goal. So that is Parakama Dhatu, culminating effort. So among these 3 types of effort, when we first come to the center, when we arrive at the center, we listen the instructions, and now we do the actual practice. From that very moment, we already have that initial effort, the Arambha Dhatu. We are trying to note, trying to observe all the physical and mental phenomena occurring in our body and mind. So initial effort is there. We are trying to note from the rising and falling movement and other different objects, the wandering mind, and also when we have some painful sensations and other sensations in the body, when we hear something, when we have some visual objects. So everything we try to note, try to observe one by one with this effort. So in sitting meditation, as we are focusing on the primary object and other secondary objects with this initial effort, in walking meditation too, we are focusing on our leg movements, right, left, lifting, placing, lifting, moving, placing. So every steps in doing walking meditation, we are trying to observe it with this initial effort. Yeah. So person who has this initial effort is also called a yogi, because he's trying very hard to note every objects arising at that very present moment. We are noting the objects occurring at the present moment, not the past objects and not the future one, the present, the presently arising objects. Focusing it. So when we try to note those presently arising objects with effort, then the noting mind will reach to that object and we come to know about the object noted. If we cannot put effort, if we don't put effort, then the noting mind will not reach to the object. The noting mind will not reach to the object. So effort is very crucial in noting the objects. If we are just watching in a relaxed manner, like watching the TV sitting on the sofa, then we won't see the things clearly. We don't know whether the mind is really watching the objects or thinking something. So we have to put enough effort. We have to push our mind so that the mind will reach the object. If we don't push the mind, then the mind will not be on the object. So this pushing force, that is also Viriya, effort. We have to exert ourselves to be able to note all the objects. But at the beginning, it is very difficult. It's not easy. Though we want to note all the objects with full effort, we cannot, because it is just a start. It's just the beginning. But we have to try again and again. We have to try again and again. So when we come for the practice, we have to remember our goal. Yeah, we have to remember our aim or purpose of coming to the retreat. Why we came to the center. Why we came to do the meditation, this Satipatthana meditation. We should have some objectives. If we do not have any goal, then we behave in casual manner. We behave casually. We don't put effort. We just work in easy manner. We don't want to exert effort if we don't have a goal. So it shouldn't be like that, oh, this time I'm free, that's why I just go and attend the retreat, participate in the retreat. We should not think that way. Not spending the time here in the retreat, but we should have a goal to achieve something from the practice, to gain some benefits from the practice. So we should have goal, then we will put effort. Then we will exert effort. We will not waste our time. Many times we fail, although we have goal and although we try, we want to try, but many times we may fail. We may not succeed but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We try again and again. We try again and again. So now we have a goal. We have a purpose of coming to the retreat. We want to gain something from the practice, and then we exert effort. And every time when we try to observe the objects arising in that very present moment, that means we are possessing the initial effort, and we are yogi, the owner of the initial effort. Again, when noting the objects, just now we said we need to push our mind towards the object so that the mind reads the object and know the nature of the object. But only pushing force is not enough. Yeah? Only pushing force, the Viriya effort, is not enough. We should aim the object also. We should focus the object. Because sometimes the effort, it might be too much effort. We are putting too much effort. When we put too much effort, then we overshoot the object. And the mind, it becomes scattered when the effort is too much. And if we put less effort, then the noting mind will not reach the object. It will disappear. So in order to have the exact amount of effort, we need to focus the object. We need to aim the object. And that aiming or focusing is called vitakka in Pali, the initial application. That is the focusing or aiming the object. So it is like in playing the marbles. Yeah. At the young age, the children play marbles. When he's about to hit another marble, first he needs to aim. He cannot just put effort to hit the marble. He has to aim the marble so that he can have a right amount of effort and hit the marble. Also, you can give an example of shooting. You have to aim the target and then put right amount of effort so the arrow will hit the target. In the same way, in the practice, when we observe the objects, we have to focus. That means we have to be very attentive. We send our mind, we pay attention to the location where the object occurs. For example, we are noting rising and falling. Now we are noting the main object rising and falling movement in the abdomen. Then we have to pay the full attention in the abdomen, not any other parts of the body. Because the rising and falling movement occurs in the abdomen. Yeah? So we have to pay attention in the abdomen. And then we put effort to note it, to note it. Then only we see the movement in the abdomen clearly and distinctly, even if it is for just a one noting of rising and one noting of falling. But the observation will be very clear and distinct. So this paying attention is somehow is a focusing. If you are noting the pain, for example, the pain occurs in the legs. So which area the pain occurs, we have to focus there. We have to pay attention there and then note that pain as a pain, so that we come to know the nature of pain very distinctly, very clearly. Therefore, in observing the objects, effort alone is not enough. We have to aim, we have to pay attention, so that we will have a right amount of effort and we see the objects more clearly. These two mental factors, the effort and aiming, is very essential, especially at the beginning of the practice. Putting effort that way, observing the objects one after another, but sometimes the mind becomes dull. The mind becomes dull. At the beginning of the sitting, maybe the mind is very active, very alert, very energetic. But when time passes on, the mind, it becomes dull, inactive. Not alert. In that situation, the initial effort, aramba dhatu, to have only the initial effort is not enough. When the mind becomes dull, inactive, not energetic, then the noting mind will not reach the object. The noting mind will not reach the object. We feel very sleepy sometimes, very, very sleepy. And when we feel sleepy, we feel very tired, very exhausted. We don't have a strength to keep our body posture straight, upright, because we feel very tired, very fatigued. We just want to have a nap. Yeah, we just want to lie down. That is the sloth and torpor. And this sloth and torpor is also the laziness. The laziness occurs. Kosadza. Kosadza in Pali, that is laziness. So when sloth and torpor or laziness occurs, at that time, the initial effort cannot help to get rid of this laziness. At that time, we need more effort. we need to boost the effort. We need to boost effort. So that boosted effort is called Nikkama Dhatu. The effort that helps us to get rid of laziness, the difficulties. Not only sleep, sloth and torpor, sometimes the mind becomes very bored. The mind, we lose the interest in the practice because we are having so much difficulties in the practice. Sitting for 1 hour is not so easy. Cannot focus on the main object and cannot focus on the other secondary objects. We are expecting something new in the practice, but we don't experience that. We are hoping to gain new experiences all the time, but we don't see any changes in the practice. We are having the same experience all the time, and at that time we lose interest in the practice, and we don't want to continue the practice. We become lazy. The mind becomes very lazy in noting the objects. Although we do sitting meditation, although we do walking meditation, but we do in just a casual manner, not very interestingly observing those objects. So in order to get out from that laziness, we also need that boosted effort, Nikkama Dhatu. When we become lazy, we have to note that lazy mind, lazy. When we feel very tired, we focus on that tired feeling and note it as tired. When we feel very fatigued, we focus on that feeling and note it as fatigue. Continuously note until it disappeared. So in order to get rid of this laziness, sloth and torpor, we need to boost up effort, and that is called Nikkama Dhatu. And when a yogi can boost effort, then he becomes a real yogi again, the owner of Nikkama Dhatu, boosted effort. And after boosting the effort and one now become able to overcome this sloth and torpor, laziness, he feel very energetic, very fresh, and now he can see, he can note the objects very clearly, very distinctly. At that situation also, he just need to continue practice with the effort until he reaches the destination. And that type of effort is the Parakamma Dhatu, culminating effort. But at the beginning, we should have the initial effort. Try to note every arising objects, starting from the main object in sitting meditation, rising and falling movement of the abdomen. When noting rising and falling movement of the abdomen and you don't have any painful sensations, but many wandering mind, many thoughts occurring, sometimes you notice the thoughts and note it for a few times and immediately come back to the rising and falling movement. And sometimes just noting rising and falling movement seems too easy. And so the mind wanders a lot because it is easy. When it is easy, we don't put much effort. So the mind wanders a lot. In that case, you try to increase the number of objects, not just the two objects, rising and falling. You can add another two, sitting and touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching, to increase the effort. But sometimes if you feel noting the four objects, rising, falling, sitting, touching, is a bit difficult, it makes the mind more wandered. You can note sometimes more touching points also, not only the two, not only the one touching. Instead of noting rising, falling, you can note more touching points, sometimes the two bottoms, two ankles, one hand rotating one after another, touching, touching, touching. But every time you have to focus those touching points, not just the chanting like a touching, touching, but the mind should be focusing on the object. Yeah? Whatever the object we note, we have to focus. And we have to put effort. If the effort decreases, then the noting just becomes like a chanting. That one also we have to be very careful that our noting is not just going in the rhythm like chanting, but the mind is really focusing the object, whatever the object. Yeah? That way we can note the objects in sitting meditation and also in walking meditation. And in walking meditation, we always try to focus on the leg movements. Of course, in walking meditation too, we may have many thoughts, but we just notice those thoughts and try to bring attention back to the leg movements. If we really want to note the thoughts during walking meditation, then we have to stop walking and not thinking, note those thoughts. But the thoughts occur very often. So better it's just notice the thoughts whenever you have thoughts in walking meditation and immediately pay attention back to the leg movements, left, right, lifting, placing, and lifting, moving, placing. So that way we can have the effort continuously so that the effort becomes strong and powerful. At the beginning, it might be very low effort. We may have a very low effort, but striving continuously, we can increase the effort. The effort becomes more strong, more powerful. So that way we can be the owner of effort, the owner of yoga, and become a real yogi. So this will be continued tomorrow. That's all for today.